You've probably been seeing these trucks your entire life. So have I. The blue ovals, bow ties, Rams, Toyotas, and GMC letters have become so familiar that most people don't even think about what they're buying anymore. They see the badge, they see the towing number, they see the giant grille, and they make a decision. But I finally looked at what actually happens after these trucks leave the dealership. And the reliability records tell a very different story than the advertisements. 10 of the biggest pickup truck brands sold in America have had model years with serious trouble areas. One has been caught in a federal investigation involving engine failures. Another has had a recall involving an instrument cluster that can go blank while driving. Several have had major recalls involving powertrain, electrical, or safety problems. And some of the trucks people assume are automatically reliable aren't nearly as simple as the badge suggests. Here we're going through all 10, from the ones we'd think twice about buying to the ones that become increasingly difficult to defend. Then I'll show you 3 that actually give you a reason to trust them. Let's get into it. Number 10. Nissan. This is the truck brand that always seemed to sit just outside the main conversation. You had Ford, Chevrolet, Ram, GMC, Toyota, and then there was Nissan. The Titan gave buyers a full-size alternative without asking them to join one of the traditional truck camps, and that's exactly why people bought it. But there's a problem when you're shopping for a truck based on long-term ownership. The truck has to have a future. The Nissan Titan was discontinued after the 2024 model year. That doesn't mean every Titan suddenly became a bad truck. It means something important for anyone buying one used. You're buying into a discontinued nameplate. That changes the equation. You have to think about parts, specialized components, resale, dealer familiarity, and how much manufacturer support you can realistically expect as the truck gets older. And this is where the Titan becomes a truck I'd approach carefully. Because a pickup isn't just an engine and 4 wheels. It's a long-term ownership commitment. And if you're buying used, you don't just want to know whether the truck was good when it was new. You want to know how easy it's going to be to keep it good when it's 10 years old. The Titan has some legitimate strengths. But if your priority is a predictable long-term ownership experience, the discontinued nameplate deserves a serious second look. And we're only at number 10. Because the next truck comes from a brand that has something Nissan never had. A massive American truck empire behind it. Number 9. GMC. The GMC Sierra is one of the easiest trucks in America to recognize. Big grille, big stance. Professional grade stamped into the identity. And for decades, GMC has positioned itself as the more upscale choice within the GM truck family. But here's something truck buyers need to understand. A premium badge doesn't automatically mean a premium mechanical experience. The current Sierra shares major engineering with the Chevrolet Silverado, and that becomes extremely important when you start looking at the problems affecting certain GM powertrains. As of August 2026, NHTSA has escalated its investigation into nearly 1 million GM pickups and SUVs equipped with the L87 6.2-liter V8, after reports of engine failures continued even after an earlier recall. The investigation includes 2021 to 2026 Sierra 1500 models equipped with that engine. That's not somebody complaining on a truck forum. That's a federal safety investigation. And the question isn't simply whether every Sierra is going to lose its engine. It isn't. The question is whether the badge on the grille is enough reason to stop investigating the exact engine and model year you're buying. It isn't. And that's the problem with buying a truck by reputation. You don't buy a GMC. You buy a specific truck, a specific engine, a specific transmission, a specific model year. And those differences can completely change the ownership experience. Which brings us to number 8. Because if you thought the Sierra's story was isolated to GMC, you're about to see why that's not quite true. Number 8. Chevrolet. The Silverado has been part of American truck culture for generations. It is one of the trucks people picture when they hear the words pickup truck. And for good reason. They're everywhere. But that popularity can create a dangerous shortcut. When somebody says, it's a Chevy, that doesn't tell you nearly enough. Because one Silverado can have a completely different reliability story from another, depending on the engine, transmission, and model year. And right now, certain Silverado 1500s are caught up in the same GM investigation involving the L87 V8. ENSA's engineering analysis covers Silverado 1500 models from 2021 through 2026, equipped with that engine, after continuing reports of engine failures. There are also current recalls involving newer Silverado models. For example, certain 2026 Silverado 1500s equipped with four-wheel or all-wheel drive are subject to a recall involving a missing transfer case component that could potentially cause the front or rear wheels to lock unexpectedly. Now here's the distinction that matters. I'm not telling you, never buy a Silverado. That's lazy. I'm telling you, don't let Silverado end your research. Because if you're spending tens of thousands of dollars on a truck, the badge is where your research should begin, not where it ends. And if you think Chevrolet is controversial, wait until we get to the truck brand that Americans have treated almost like a religion. Number 7. Ford. The F-Series isn't just a truck line, it's an American institution. Ford has built generations of buyers around the idea that an F-Series truck means toughness, and millions of owners have good reasons for believing it. But here's the part that doesn't fit neatly into the commercial. Popular doesn't mean problem-free. The current F-150 has had recalls involving everything from electrical systems to towing-related equipment. A 2026 recall covers certain 2021-2026 F-150s because the integrated trailer brake module can lose communication with the vehicle, potentially affecting trailer brake and lighting functions. And that's exactly why truck buyers need to stop thinking in absolutes. Ford isn't bad, the F-150 isn't bad, but the idea that an F-150 is automatically a safe purchase simply because it's an F-150, that's where things fall apart. Because Ford has produced dozens of configurations across multiple generations. Different engines, different transmissions, different technologies, different problems. So if somebody tells you, buy an F-150, they're bulletproof, the correct response isn't to argue. It's to ask, which one? Which year? Which engine? Which transmission? How was it maintained? What recalls apply? That is how you buy a truck, not by memorizing a logo. And number 6 is where the reliability conversation gets even more complicated. Because this is the brand people often mention when they want something that rides like a luxury vehicle but still has a truck badge. Number 6. Ram. Ram has done something very few truck manufacturers managed to do. It convinced buyers that a pickup could be both a work machine and a comfortable daily driver. The interiors became a selling point. The ride became a selling point. The power became a selling point, and the Hemi became part of the brand's identity. But when you look underneath the leather and giant touchscreen, the reliability story becomes more complicated. The 2026 Ram 1500 has accumulated multiple recalls. One current recall affects certain 2019-2026 Ram 1500 trucks because second-row seatbelt anchors may have been improperly installed. Another affects certain 2026 trucks because headlight wiring can cause parking lights or daytime running lights to flicker or fail. And a separate recall affects certain 2025-2026 Ram 1500s because software can cause the instrument panel display to fail. That last one is particularly interesting because modern trucks have become rolling computers. Your instrument cluster isn't decoration. It can contain information about speed, braking systems, tire pressure, transmission position, and other safety-related information. When that screen goes blank, you're not talking about a cup holder that stopped working. You're talking about information the driver may need while the vehicle is moving. And yet here's where the story gets uncomfortable. Ram isn't universally unreliable. In fact, J.D. Power's 2026 Vehicle Dependability Study ranked the Ram 1500 highest among large light-duty pickups for dependability. So why is it on this list? Because that's exactly the problem. One ranking isn't enough. A truck can rank well in a long-term dependability study and still have specific model years, systems, or recalls that deserve scrutiny. If you're shopping for a Ram, you need to know which Ram. And now we're getting to the brand where reputation may be doing even more work than the actual vehicle. Number 5. Toyota. Yes, Toyota. Before the Toyota owners start typing, hear me out. Toyota earned its reliability reputation. That's not something we're disputing. The problem is, what happens when that reputation gets transferred from one model to another without checking the details? The latest Tundra generation is the perfect example. Toyota introduced a new twin-turbo V6 powertrain, and then came a major engine problem. Toyota recalled certain Tundra and Lexus LX vehicles after machining debris inside engines was linked to potential main bearing failure. The issue became serious enough that Toyota developed a diagnostic process to determine which recalled engines actually need replacement. And here's what makes this important. The Tundra's problem doesn't mean Toyota is unreliable. It means Toyota can build a problematic powertrain. Those are two very different statements. Because the same company can produce a Tundra with a serious engine concern and a Tacoma with a much stronger dependability record. In fact, J.D. Power's 2026 study ranked the Toyota Tacoma highest among midsize pickups. So what does that tell us? It tells us that the badge isn't enough. You cannot simply say, it's a Toyota. You have to say, it's a 2026 Tacoma, or it's a 2024 Tundra with this engine. That's a completely different conversation, and we're still not at number 1. Number 4, Jeep. Jeep has something that most truck brands would kill to have: identity. You don't just buy a Jeep, you join the Jeep world. The Wrangler's reputation for off-road capability is legendary. And when Jeep introduced the Gladiator, it had an immediate advantage. People already wanted a Jeep. Now they could have one with a bed. But capability and reliability are not the same thing. The Gladiator is a specialized machine. Solid axle off-road hardware, a tall body, removable components, more mechanical complexity than a conventional commuter vehicle. And that means the buyer needs to be honest about what they're actually prioritizing. If you need an off-road pickup, and you're willing to accept the compromises that come with that design, the Gladiator can make sense. But if you're simply looking for a dependable everyday pickup, buying one because you love the Jeep image is a different calculation. And that's the pattern you're going to keep seeing. The truck that looks the toughest isn't automatically the truck that will give you the fewest headaches. The truck with the biggest badge isn't automatically the truck with the best long-term record. And the truck that looks the most expensive isn't automatically the truck that was engineered the best. We're down to 3. And the next one is particularly interesting because it's one of the newest names in the American pickup market. Number 3, Rivian. Rivian did something traditional truck companies couldn't. It made an electric pickup feel desirable before many traditional manufacturers had fully committed to the idea. The R1T is quick. It's technologically advanced. It has impressive off-road capability, and it looks nothing like the trucks people grew up with. But here's the problem. New technology has to prove itself. When you're buying a vehicle with a comparatively young platform, you're accepting something the owner of a decades-old truck doesn't have to accept to the same degree: uncertainty, battery systems, software, electric motors, thermal management, sensors, cameras, electronic controls, and the infrastructure needed to repair all of it. None of that automatically makes an R1T unreliable. But it makes the ownership equation different. And that's why I wouldn't put Rivian in the same category as an established truck platform with decades of field history. You're not necessarily buying a bad truck. You're buying a newer technological proposition. And if you're the kind of buyer who wants the newest technology, that may be exactly what you want. But if your only priority is, I want this truck to be as proven as possible, then newness itself becomes a factor. And now we're down to number 2, a truck that has become one of the most controversial vehicles in America. Number 2, Tesla. The Cybertruck doesn't have a normal truck reputation. It has a movement. People either love it or hate it. And that makes it almost impossible to discuss without somebody turning the conversation into a brand war. But we're not talking about whether it looks cool. We're talking about what matters after you buy it. The Cybertruck is an extremely new platform with an unconventional design, steer-by-wire architecture, stainless steel body panels, and an enormous amount of software integrated into the vehicle. That makes it fascinating. It also makes long-term reliability harder to establish than with a mature pickup platform. And that's the key word: mature. A truck can be innovative. A truck can be revolutionary. A truck can be the fastest pickup you've ever driven. None of those words mean proven. And if you're spending this kind of money, those aren't interchangeable concepts. You don't want to discover the difference between innovative and proven after the warranty period. And that brings us to number 1. The truck brand that has perhaps the biggest gap between its reputation and the evidence buyers should actually examine. Number 1. General Motors full-size trucks. Chevrolet and GMC already appeared separately on this list. Now it's time to look at the bigger picture. Because when you step back, you're not really looking at two completely independent truck engineering programs. You're looking at the same corporate family-sharing platforms, powertrains, and technology. And that's important, because the current L87 engine investigation doesn't care whether the badge on the front says Chevrolet or GMC. SO's current engineering analysis covers nearly 1 million GM vehicles after continued reports of engine failures, including Silverado 1500 and Sierra 1500 trucks from 2021 through 2026, equipped with the L87 6.2-liter V8. GM has said the original problem was tied to supplier quality and has cooperated with the investigation. But the fact that regulators escalated the investigation after complaints continued following the earlier recall is exactly why buyers should pay attention. And here's the part that should bother anyone shopping for a truck. A recall doesn't automatically mean this truck is terrible. It means this specific problem was serious enough that a safety remedy was required. That's a completely different statement. And when a problem involves an engine, you're not dealing with a cheap cosmetic repair. You're dealing with one of the most expensive components in the vehicle. That's why GM's full-size truck lineup takes the number 1 spot on our avoid list. Not because every Silverado or Sierra is guaranteed to fail, but because the current evidence makes it impossible to recommend blindly. The badge isn't enough. The engine matters. The year matters. The recall history matters. And the VIN matters. Now that you know what to approach carefully, let's talk about the 3 pickup brands that actually give us a reason to feel better. Best option number 3. Hyundai. Hyundai is not the first name most Americans associate with pickup truck reliability. That's exactly why it's interesting. The Santa Cruz isn't trying to compete directly with an F-250. It's a compact unibody pickup designed for buyers who want an open bed without buying an enormous body-on-frame truck. And current dependability data gives it legitimate support. J.D. Power's 2026 Vehicle Dependability Study ranked the Hyundai Santa Cruz among the top performers in the mid-size pickup segment, alongside the Toyota Tacoma. Edmunds also includes the Santa Cruz among its most reliable pickups for 2026, based on recent dependability and long-term testing data. And here's what I like about this truck. It doesn't pretend to be something it isn't. If you need a heavy-duty work truck, this isn't your answer. But if you need a daily driver with a bed for bikes, tools, home improvement supplies, and weekend projects, its smaller format can actually be an advantage. Sometimes reliability comes from not buying more machine than you actually need. And that brings us to number 2, a truck that has been earning its reputation for so long that the name itself has become synonymous with mid-size pickup durability. Best option number 2. Toyota. Yes, Toyota is back. And that's not a contradiction. Because remember what we said about the Tundra. Toyota is not magic. The Tundra's recent engine problems prove that. But the Tacoma has a different history, different platform, different powertrain, different reliability record, and the current data is compelling. J.D. Power ranked the Toyota Tacoma highest among mid-size pickups in its 2026 Vehicle Dependability Study. Edmunds also identifies the 2026 Tacoma as its most reliable pickup, based on the latest dependability data and its own long-term testing. And that is the lesson. You don't buy a Tacoma because Toyota good. You buy it because the specific vehicle you're looking at has evidence behind it. That's a completely different mindset. And it is the mindset we want you to have before buying any truck. Now let's get to number 1. Best option number 1. Ford. Yes, Ford. The same Ford we criticized earlier. And again, that's intentional. Because Ford produces an enormous range of pickups. A Ford F-150 isn't one vehicle. It's a family of vehicles with different engines, configurations, and model years. And some current evidence is surprisingly favorable. Edmunds' 2026 reliability ranking places the F-150 among the strongest full-size truck choices, while another 2026 full-size comparison from Pickup Truck Plus SUV Talk ranked the F-150 first, after considering owner complaints, recalls, and reliability data. That doesn't erase Ford's recalls. It doesn't make every F-150 bulletproof. And it certainly doesn't mean every model year should be treated equally. It means something much more useful. Ford is worth researching rather than automatically rejecting. And that's what separates this list from a simple good truck versus bad truck ranking. Because the real winner isn't a brand. It's the buyer who knows what they're looking at.